What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again, once again, and I've seen it said that I don't like anything about Destiny 2, and the most recent iteration of this nonsense is that I don't like Shadowkeep, or I don't have anything nice to say about Shadowkeep. Apparently, these people missed my Shadowkeep raid review, where I spend half the review gushing over the lore and the possibilities therein, and just generally talking about how I really enjoyed the raid. Or my Vex Offensive review, where I see the potential for the mode and really wish that Bungie wouldn't go the disposable route, because finally, in the first time of the franchise ever, they've actually gotten the acquisition of loot in a mode pretty solid. They got it right, in my opinion. But hey, fucking details. Again, clearly these intellectually dishonest sycophants seem to miss all the videos where I say really nice positive things about Destiny. I wonder if maybe I title this something negative, if they'll be in here making idiots out of themselves in the comments. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, I really enjoyed the dungeon. And I wish we got more content like this instead of once every year or once every content drop. Now, of course, I've seen people say,
"But Joker, isn't the dungeon just kinda simplistic?"
Yes. Yes, it is. Hell, I'm sure Glad has soloed it, no weapons, no supers, melee only, with nothing more than his scrotum playing while blindfolded. But, as I've said before and will say again, difficulty doesn't equal quality. The Pit of Heresy, the new dungeon, consists of 4 encounters and rewards a fully leveled up pinnacle reward upon completion. And one might argue that, once again, the Pit of Heresy puts on full display for the world to see just how much the art team is truly carrying this game as you descend into the lowest recesses of the Scarlet Keep to stop a Hive ritual. So this isn't a guide, and I'm not going to treat it as one. What I will do is give a quick overview of the encounters and then wrap up my thoughts at the end of the video. The first encounter introduces you to a new Hive Sword. This sword functions more like an exotic sword than a Hive Sword, allowing you to fire a projectile, block, and of course do normal Hive Sword things like swipe and super. Once you get the sword, you seek out the Hive Boss. These bosses aren't hard to find, they have the Hive equivalent of the bat signal over the rooms where they're located. One room will contain a knight, one room will contain a witch, and one room will contain a shrieker, all of which can only be killed by one of the aspects of the sword. The Hive Knight is a good old-fashioned sword duel, so you just have to swipe at it or use the sword super. The witch is killed by projectiles, and the shrieker is killed by blocking and bouncing its own projectiles back at it. After this, you descend into a maze, somewhat reminiscent of the Vault of Glass Gorgon maze from Destiny 1, where you'll come face to face with several unkillable ogres. That's okay, however, because you don't need to kill the ogres, you need to get 3 orbs to unlock 3 doors. These orbs can be found inside passages and drop after killing specific knights. Once you get these 3 orbs and open these 3 doors, you go into a room that's very reminiscent of the Totem Room from the King's Fall raid. Here, one player just stands on the totem plate, while the other 2 retrieve 6 orbs, and you open the door. Which brings you to another maze-like area where you hunt 3 witches. Yup, it's literally a witch hunt. After you search through the labyrinth and find your 3 witches and kill them, you proceed to the final boss's room. Here, the goal is simple. Get a sword, then kill a witch, a knight, and a shrieker, the exact same way you did in the first encounter. So, you use the sword swipes to kill the knight, you use the sword block to kill the shrieker, and you use the sword projectiles to kill the witch. Once you kill these mini bosses, they will drop a purple orb, which you take to the center to activate the green mist. This green mist is what allows you to damage the boss. This, not Crota but on fire, has a few attacks. A sword swipe, some fire that he can shoot out at you, and then at the end of the DPS phase, if you're still standing in the green mist, he will unleash an instant kill attack, killing anybody who's still standing in the green mist. And that's pretty much the boss fight. If you don't manage to kill him in the first DPS phase, don't worry, nothing changes. Go kill the knight, the witch, and the shrieker again, retrieve the purple orbs, and start the DPS phase all over again. So, this dungeon sounds fairly easy, and you're not wrong for thinking that. It is. The first time my team and I went through it, we didn't wipe. Sure, we had the occasional death, but I want to say the environment killed us more than the actual mechanics or the AI did. But as I said earlier, easy doesn't mean bad, nor does difficult mean good. While the Pit of Heresy skimps on the raid-like mechanics of, say, the Shattered Throne, dungeons are not raids and they shouldn't be. They exist in a space between strikes and raids, with the previous dungeon Shattered Throne leaning more towards raids, and this one, Pit of Heresy, leaning more towards strikes. Pit of Heresy, in fact, I would say, plays more like the Whisper quest or the Outbreak Perfected quest in terms of what it asks the player to do and the relative difficulty. And if it was more akin to those encounters, perhaps dropping a new or returning exotic like Necrochasm, I think it would have fewer detractors for its relative ease. Where this dungeon does fail, however, is in terms of loot. You have a primary slug shoddy that's really no better or worse than any other slug shoddies, though it does have more aim assist than your average slug shoddy, and if you want something in your primary slot, there you go. The sniper's interesting because it can roll with rangefinder, and more range on console traditionally means more aim assist, and both on console and PC, it means more bullet magnetism. And then you have the rocket launcher, a curiously pathetic thing with horrible stats. That said, none of these weapons are the second coming of Mindbenders or Duskrock, Beloved or Twilight Oath, or any decently rolled high-end non-exotic rocket launcher. Like much of Shadowkeep, the loot is just kind of there. It has a bit of aesthetic if that's your thing, but like I say in my raid review, loot is everything. That's why we play activities long past their relevancy. And while getting a fully leveled pinnacle reward is nice, if it's not the aesthetic that you're looking for, if it doesn't have the stats that you're looking for, if it's not the element that you're looking for, it doesn't really matter. Sure, free shards or free levels are nice, I guess, but that sort of brings us back to the unfortunate reality of Destiny. Either the loot matters or it doesn't, which sort of, and a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this, almost necessitates power creep.
Oh, the Joker power creep's bad. Blah, 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 blah.
Look, I get not wanting to hunt down new weapons every DLC because your old weapons were made obsolete, but also, at the same time, why would I want to hunt down new gear every DLC if they didn't make the things that I already had that were god rolls somewhat obsolete? It's a double-edged sword, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages. And I would rather power creep exist in a way where I'm hunting down new gear and new and interesting perk combinations that I can't get on old weapons, instead of metas being dictated by the whims of whatever Bungie wants to nerf this week. I think power creep created by new and interesting perks that give you a reason to chase new and interesting weapons is far better than artificial change by nerfing weapons. Weapons that may not have been overpowered per se, but they were just top of the meta or heavily used over a long period of time. This is the difference between nerfing hand cannons just because people use them all the time, and going in and nerfing something like One-Eyed Mask, which is an issue. You couldn't really do anything about One-Eyed Mask without nerfing it. You could do something about hand cannon use without nerfing them by simply introducing better or more thought out alternatives. The nerfing of a weapon archetype or a perk should be the last thing that anyone suggests in order to change up a meta, unless that thing is so significantly and fundamentally broken, like One-Eyed Mask, that it requires individual attention. But I digress. Point being, the loot could be better, and I don't understand why Bungie doesn't use the opportunity of DLCs to introduce new and interesting perks. They did it once with Season of the Drifter, and then they really haven't done it since. All in all, however, the dungeon proves me right once again. When Bungie does something other than lazily put together a quest whose entire contents is nothing more than go kill 500 enemies, then go play an old strike that you've been playing since Destiny 2 released, then go play Gambit, then go play Crucible, then go play some strikes, then go do a Nightfall, then go, I don't know, do 3 Lost Sectors, then go back to Gambit and kill somebody with a headshot from a hand cannon within 3 seconds of their invasion. Or go back to the Leviathan and kill 500 Cabal. Anyways, point being, once they put their mind to it, once they want to create new and interesting content, even though they're reusing a bunch of mechanics, it's still something that's worth our time. Now think about what would happen if they put the same effort into the story of Shadowkeep that they put into this dungeon. Hell, think about if this dungeon was the last level of Shadowkeep's story. You go down into the dungeon, you kill Not Flaming Crota, then a pathway opens, and you see what the Scarlet Keep's been hiding, and then you're introduced to the Pyramid Ship. You get the Vision, you get the Vex invasions, which leads to the raid. That would have been cool. That would have been more engaging than go to Lost Sectors, go kill 500 Hive, go open 20 chests, go do 3 public events, and go forge a set of armor that you don't ultimately need. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below, and like always, stay frosty.